All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. And it is Wednesday. You know what that means. Time for some more Wednesday wisdom and diving deeper into the lost wisdom of the Pharaohs and the Hermetica, written by Timothy Freke and Peter Gandy. This is the Tarshard Cornerstone edition. The figure of Hermes was venerated as a great and mythical teacher in the ancient world and was rediscovered in more modern times and by even some of the finest minds in the Renaissance, or the Renaissance, as I like to pronounce it. And these writings attributed to his hand are a time capsule of Egyptian and Greek esoteric, cult, mystical, spiritual, philosophical wisdom. The wisdom of the Pharaohs, ladies and gentlemen. And so far in the series, we've gone through many sections and find ourselves all the way to section 19 now, as you can see. And how many more do we have left is the question. Section 20, so it's one. Only one more after this, and then it's sources for text. So this has been a fantastic journey, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a fun one. And it's one that we can easily go back through and get different revelations, different ideas. These are the kinds of ideas, the living cosmos and the gods and contemplating creation and astrology and many, many more things. The creation of mankind and a spiritual rebirth. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we find ourselves in the section in which Hermes reviews his teachings and encourages us to go beyond his words to a profound realization of their truth. And as I've said on each of these episodes, and what was said by Hermes in the very beginning, the very first section of his words, was that pure philosophy, and these are the first words of the section entitled The Prophecies of Hermes. Pure philosophy is spiritual striving through constant contemplation. That point to me being the most important. I think the spiritual striving could be reworded spiritual diligence or effort, striving sometimes. Anyways, constant contemplation is the key to attain true knowledge of what Hermes described, or Thoth described as of Atum, the one God. And so, with that being said, remember, the being of Atum is something just like the universe, God, source, the force, as I like to call it, or the Tao, from the Tao Te Ching. But Hermes attempts to describe Atum, or God, although God cannot be defined with words. Hermes or Thoth admits or teaches, if we have not got to that point for ourselves yet. God cannot, and anybody could agree that God cannot be defined with words, but what I'm getting at with that is that we are a part of that thing, that it is not separate from us, and somewhere out there, judging us from a separate point of view, this Atum, this Tao, this force, this God, is everything at all times at once. It is all of creation. And so we are a part of that. Now, it does go into other parts about the weighing of the soul and things that are parts of God or of reality. But this, once again, as I said, was a wonderful journey. So we find ourselves now, ladies and gentlemen, hope you got yourself a beverage of choice. I got some cold tea today. It's kind of one of those cold water infusion teas. So it works great for the summer and kind of a berry flavor. Very good. But hope you're doing well, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are. Hope you're staying cool. or warm if it's cold where you are. That would be odd, though. Be on the opposite side of the planet than me. But, or I guess different latitude. Anyways, that's besides the point. Just a bit of friendliness there, ladies and gentlemen. The secret teachings. Everything we've read so far was the secret teachings, but now Timothy Freke and Peter Gandy begin by saying, quote, the teachings of the ancient mystery religions were closely guarded secrets. And so that is why I had some perturbation, if that is the correct word, or some hesitancy to produce a series on this content, because this isn't for everyone. But with that being said, as Atum said, there will come a time when we are ready. Let me read a little bit of the prophecies of Hermes, because this relates exactly to that. These guarded secrets of this ancient mystery religions, or ancient mystery spiritual philosophies, as I like to call them, because the word religion has become something very different. But these mystical understandings were highly guarded secrets. An oath of secrecy, punishable by death, was taken by all initiates. In reality, however, this is once again the words of Timothy Freke and Peter Gandy out of the section 19. In reality, however, these secrets guard themselves. And so this is going to be a good correlation. These secrets guard themselves. They are, quote, sacred open secrets, written in the language of nature, in the movement of the stars and the singing of the birds. The answers are there for all who are able to look and listen. Remember the eyes and the ears? To look and listen with minds unclouded by others' opinions. By others' opinions. And so, pure philosophy is spiritual striving through constant contemplation to attain true knowledge of Atum, the one God. But speaking now in prophecy, Hermes says, I say that in times to come, no one will pursue philosophy with single-mindedness and purity of heart. Those with a grudging and ungenerous temperament will try and prevent men discovering the priceless gift of immortality. And I think his prediction is what was described in the history of this great wisdom, and how that it was destroyed, ushering in the era known as the Dark Ages. I was trying to find the point here, but I'll read a little bit here of what we're getting at, just to connect all of this. In 1438, the Byzantine scholar Plethion made available to the awestruck Florentines the entire lost works of Plato, Platonic philosophy. More of this esoteric, or this universal knowledge and understanding of the workings of the nature of reality and nature itself, to create, got a few reference points going here, to create what was being described here in today's section, where it says, in reality, however, these secrets are sacred open secrets written in the language of nature and the movement of the stars and the singing of the birds. The answers are there for all who are able to look and listen with minds unclouded by others' opinions, as compared to Hermes saying, pursuing this philosophy with a purity of heart and a single-mindedness, rather than a grudging and ungenerous temperament, in an attempt to prevent men from discovering this priceless gift of immortality. And so back to the little bit of the history there, these and other pagan works, as the Christians called them, the Christian empire of that time, you know, nothing against random Christian people today who have no idea about all of this stuff, but these and other pagan works were translated into Latin for the first time. The ruler of Florence, the philanthropist scholar Cosimo de' Medici, established a new Platonic academy, a group of intellectuals and mystics who found their inspiration in the ancient mystical philosophy. They called it pagan philosophy. The ancient spiritual traditions, ladies and gentlemen, which is why we're here on Wednesday doing Wednesday Wisdom, the wisdom of the ages, which was initially the title of the book we started doing on Wednesdays, which was Wisdom of the Ages by Wayne Dyer. But now we're here seeking after the lost wisdom of literally our past and the mysteries of our history, so that we can create a greater understanding of the nature of reality in order to increase the quality of our experience or our lives. And so a group of intellectuals and mystics created this new academy, and it profoundly influenced great names like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Botticelli, Raphael, who began painting pictures of ancient pagan gods. Botticelli's Venus and Mars, for example, was painted at a precise astrological moment. And so capable of magically transporting the viewer, it said, to an altered state of spiritual awareness. So these guys weren't just artists and mathematicians, painters and, sculptors. They were mystical philosophers, mystics, and what's the other word I'm looking for? Astrologers. I mean, these guys were far more from the influence of this mystical wisdom that we are discussing and that we have been discussing through this entire series. And so the emergence of this glorious new culture came to an end because we know why. And so that ushered in the era called the Dark Ages. No, opposite. The emergence of this culture ended the Dark Ages. And so with Hermes being before the Dark Ages, I think he was predicting, let's go back here a little bit, the golden age of Alexandria came to an end with the birth of the intolerant Christian Holy Roman Empire. Despite the sophistication and cultural achievements of the ancients in this Alexandrian Renaissance, to me there are similar periods in their it's a weird connection for me, but and so it's unfortunate, despite the sophistication and cultural achievements of the ancients, which is where this esoteric knowledge, Pythagoreanism, Greek myths, Platonic and Stoic philosophy, the Greek mystery schools, astrology, alchemy, Buddhism, and of course the ancient Egyptian mystic spiritual philosophies, where they were all practiced and studied and compared, Christians referred to them dismissively as pagans, which simply means country dwellers. You can see how things begin to take on different meanings. But unfortunately, Hypatia, one of the greatest scientists and mystical spiritual philosophers working at the Library of Alexandria, was seized by a mob of Christians who were led, and probably by mob mentality, didn't have any control of their own senses. And they were led by their leader, Bishop Curel. And they, let's just say, got rid of her. It's disgusting what actually happened. But the point that is being made here is the great library was destroyed, and so many of all the rest of these places. And to me, this is what Hermes was talking about here, when that in times to come, back to his words, no one will pursue this philosophy with single-mindedness and purity of heart. Those with a grudging and ungenerous temperament, Holy Roman Empire, will try and prevent men for the next 2,000 years through the Renaissance to where we are now today, indoctrinated into a society of confusion and illusion. I don't know where that came from, but I kind of feel that to be the case. Not everybody's lost and confused out here, but there's a lot of purposeful mechanisms to keep us that way that raise question. But the priceless gift of immortality will not be able to be discovered. Philosophy will become confused, making it hard to comprehend, and it will be corrupted by spurious speculation, and it will be entangled with the bewildering sciences like arithmetic, music, and geometry. The student of pure philosophy studies the sciences not as fanciful theories, but as devotion to the universe, to God, to Atum, because they reveal just that, a universe perfectly ordered by the power of number. Because measuring the depths of the sea and forces of fire and magnitudes of physical things leads to a reverent awe at the Creator's skill and wisdom, because the mysteries of music bear witness to the unsurpassed talent of the supreme artist, who has beautifully harmonized all things into a single whole, suffused with sweet melodies. And so, back now to the secret teachings. These secrets guard themselves because they are open. And they are written in the language of nature, and in the movement of the stars, and in the singing of the birds. And the answers are there for all of us and those who are able to look and listen with the eyes to see and the ears to hear, as once it was put, with minds unclouded by others' opinions. Hermes has taught us, this is the book still, Hermes has taught us some of these profound secrets. If we are not ready to receive them, we will simply just not understand what we have read. And I will cut in there and say, this has happened to me more often than not. More often when and let me know in the comments below if you have the same feeling that when reading this mystical spiritual philosophy, whether it just be philosophy like we were talking about yesterday in Power versus Force on consciousness and kinesiology. If you're interested in that, be sure to check out yesterday's video. You could probably fast forward to about 10 minutes in to skip the intro, but but this idea that more often than not, you will read something, and if you're not ready to receive it, you just simply don't understand it. But I do believe it's an important process of planting seeds. See, we planted some carrot seeds out here, and it took them a week and a half or two before they began sprouting out of the ground. And so sometimes when we plant these seeds by reading something that, you know, like it said, the answers are there for all of us who are able. But most of us, as Hermes has taught us, with these profound secrets, if we're not ready to get them, then we have to plant the seed and wait for the seed to sprout and grow. And then with the correct conditions, in this metaphor, sunlight and water and nutrients, fertilizer, everything that's needed. So if we can put ourselves metaphorically and mentally in the correct growing position for this kind of knowledge, then will those seeds sprout and grow and reveal the fruit of quote unquote understanding some of these profound secrets that are open for all of us to see in the very functioning of nature and reality. The book continues, though. Words lead us to the doorway of truth, but only by contemplating their meaning can we pass through. If we meditate on these teachings, we will know them. And we can come to know them through conscious contact to be true. If we don't, they will just be mere concepts, more concepts and opinions. Hermes has tried to paint a picture of God for us. If we can catch his vision, it will take possession of our very soul, it says, but I think that could be described in a different way, and lead us to knowledge. It is hard to let go of our familiar way of seeing things, but by Atum's grace, by God's grace, by the grace of reality in the universe, the force, we can be spiritually reborn and return to our original home. God is like a musician who creates the harmonies of the cosmos and gives each individual his own particular theme to play. And I'll add, this is important for us to recognize that last bit there, is that we each, nobody's the best at anything. And so don't worry about anybody else being better than you at anything, because they also suck at stuff. Everybody sucks. And that means everybody's good at stuff. So it's not this big game of like, oh, there's all these people that are better than me and I'm not good enough. And we all suck at different things. And that's why we have to work together. Because if I suck at this and you're good at it, then we can compensate. With that being said, I just thought for some reason my mind was like, that's necessary to say. If you're getting value, consider subscribing. Smash the like button. I got a little itch on my nose. Now, we are all... Oh, wow. Good metaphor here. So God is like a musician who creates harmonies of the cosmos and gives each individual his own particular theme to play. If the music of life seems discordant to us, we should not blame the master musician, but ourselves. We are the out-of-tune instrument which mars the beauty of his composition. Wow. That paragraph is the most powerful paragraph that could describe disharmony and creating harmony in your life. I'll just leave that one there because that's a whole thing. At least that's one of those subjects. I'm going to highlight that. God is like a musician who creates the harmonies of the cosmos and gives each individual, so we all have our own particular mission, and we are part of this perfectness that is everything, so we are not screwed up. It's important to recognize there. But if life seems to be not working for us or against us or discordant or dissonant rather than resonance, or a lack of harmony rather than harmony, I mean, this is what we're talking about when it comes to philosophy of creating happiness in our lives. is trying to discover a flow or a harmony or a way of aligning with Atum, the universe, Tao, God, whatever, aligning with this harmony of nature, which we have been describing here in this video earlier. And if it seems discordant to us, we should not blame the universe or the world or other people or your boss or your aunt or your, it isn't the rest of reality's fault, because we are all just part of this symphony of frequencies or harmonies and disharmonies, balance, resonance, and dissonance. So we should not blame the rest of the world, but take responsibility for ourselves. And often that can be taken the wrong way. Like, oh, I suck once again, and I'm not good enough, and it's all my fault. No, that's not it at all. It is not your fault. Responsibility simply means your ability to respond, not the weight of the world on your shoulders. Because once again, you're just out of tune a little bit. And once you can find a new direction of harmony, wherever that be, see, that's the ultimate challenge in changing our lives and finding more happiness. And it's what I'm obsessed with trying to figure out, is this process of alignment, whether people call it manifesting or changing your life or becoming you. Anyways, we are the out of tune instrument, which confuses the beauty of the entirety of all composition or all of reality. And I think this is an epidemic in our society. Because of the structures of society, we have been all led to be, I'm not saying this is the science of lucky people. It's like we have been taught and structured through the educational system and other things to be out of tune instruments with our true purpose of why we're here and where our talent is, because we're taught to increase your deficiencies. Sorry for this rant, but I'm having fun. Increase your deficiencies, when in actuality, we should focus on our strengths so that we can do the best at what we are already good at, rather than trying to get good at the things that we don't naturally have any tendency to want to do anyways, because it's a challenge to us. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't challenge yourself and attempt to grow. And this is another paradox, which we've learned all of this mystical, spiritual, philosophical stuff is. And life is full of paradoxes, as the Tao or God seemingly does nothing while leaving nothing undone. Rant over. Loved that one. If you're getting value, thank you for being here. I'd love to hear from you in the comments section below, because it's fun to get some back and forth with people. Finally, the last paragraph of Timothy Freke and Peter Gandy, in this second to last section on the secret teachings of Hermes. Hermes reflects that when we devote ourselves devoutly, when we devote ourselves to the spiritual path, we mysteriously become perfectly tuned. Once again, going back to the tuning of this metaphor of us being the untuned instruments. Hermes is aware of his own personal weakness. Whoa. Because I thought Hermes was venerated as a god. A combination, the legendary sage god, responsible for this mystical philosophy. A combination of Egyptian Thoth and Greek Hermes. Hermes thrice greatest, even admits himself of his own personal weakness. But God still makes him a perfect vehicle for his divine will, and can do the same for us if we are prepared. to accept that reality, that we are vehicles of perfect divinity, and that we merely need to become perfectly tuned or aligned or reconnected or brought back into harmony. This is powerful. Now, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, my favorite part, as always, the words of Thoth and Hermes Trismegistus on this very subject in the section called Secret Teachings. The words of Hermes Trismegistus begin by saying, quote, "Now that you have learned these secrets, you must promise to keep silent and never to reveal how the rebirth is transmitted. These teachings have been set down in private to be read only by those whom Atum himself wills to know them. Only if you contemplate all that I have said will you know it to be true. If you do not, you will not believe me. For belief grows from contemplation, and disbelief from lack of thought. Speech alone cannot convey the truth, but the power of mind is extraordinary. And when it has been led by speech to think things through thoroughly, it can find the peace of true beliefs. Only if grasped by thought in this way will my teachings be understood. I have, as far as possible, as far as is possible, painted for you a likeness of Atum, which if gazed upon with the eyes of your heart, will lead you to the upward path. The vision itself will be your guide, for it has this power, peculiar to itself, that it takes possession of those who have seen it and draws them out, just as the magnet draws iron from the black earth. This is the journey of knowledge. Speed towards this knowledge. For although it is hard to let go of the familiar and return to the old home from whence we originated, Atum's grace never fails, and there is no end to his bounty. He is by nature a musician who composes the harmony of the cosmos and transmits to each individual the rhythm of their own music. If the music becomes discordant, don't blame the musician, but the lyre string he plays. That has become loose and sounds flat, marring the perfect beauty of the melody. But I have noticed that when an artist deals with a noble theme, his lyre becomes mysteriously tuned, so that its deficiencies issue glorious music to the amazement of his listeners. It has been like this with me. I confess my weakness, but by Atum's power, my music is made good, and he will likewise make your music perfect. There is no discord amongst the inhabitants of heaven. All have one purpose, one mind, one feeling, for they are bound by the spell of love into one harmonious whole. The earthly part of the universe would seem rude and savage without sweet melodies. This is why Atum sent down the choir of muses, to live amongst humankind and inspire music, so that men could adore divinity with hymns of praise, in polyphony with the psalms of heaven. So let us adore Atum with deep gratitude, because words are only praise when he accepts them. And that concludes the words of Hermes Trismegistus in the section entitled Secret Teachings. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, a boom to knowledge, a boom to the lost wisdom of the Pharaohs, and that was incredible. It was mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. I love that last bit here. This is why Atum sent down the choir of muses to live amongst humankind and inspire music. I think he's talking about birds singing, the singing birds, because I think that is just an interesting possibility. And when words are said, like, let us adore Atum, because words are only praised when he accepts them, remember, the being of Atum is not a person or an entity. It is the entirety of all. Atum is all. So when it says, let us adore Atum, it is not like, let us worship an external deity that we are not connected to. We are a part of that divinity. If God is universal, then there is nowhere there that it is not. And that means that it is in you, and it is in me, and it is in the birds, and it is in the trees. And remember, in the sound of the birds, in the wind of the trees, or through the trees, can we come to know, through this observance of nature, which we began with in the beginning, to the knowledge of Atum, or reality. The force, universe, great spirit, grand organized design, God, God, ladies and gentlemen. This was fantastic. A cheers to you, and a cheers to the wisdom of the ages. Can you cheers, T? I think. Well, that one left me kind of like feeling pretty mystical. We're like floating, ladies and gentlemen. But that was fantastic. That was a boom to the knowledge and the wisdom of the Pharaohs, the lost wisdom of the Pharaohs. Once again, Timothy Freke and Peter Gandy, the Hermetica. We read this for purposes of teaching and commentary and expanding the mind so that we can increase our understanding of the nature of reality in order to increase the quality of our experience. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment, through a greater awareness, and seek to discover the lost wisdom of the ages and the mysteries of our history. And remember that there is no way to happiness, because happiness is the way. It is the activity that we must bring to life through this practice and through this research. And when we can do that, then all the things we've been telling ourselves, oh, when I this kind of person, or I have that much money, all of that becomes irrelevant, because then we are there, ladies and gentlemen. And hopefully the entire journey is wonderful. All right. I love and appreciate each one of you that spend time here with me, and Timothy Freke, Peter Gandy, Hermes Thoth, Trismegistus, and also Wayne Dyer on Wednesdays, and well, Tuesdays and Wednesdays in the past. Anyways, all the wonderful authors and poets and mystics and philosophers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to expand the description and get this book for yourself to put it on your shelf so that you can go back and reference all of this. Because as we said earlier, we need to plant the seeds, and then when they're sprouting, come back and give them some more light with some more research, give them some water and fertilizer and whatnot. And then we can really grow some fruits of truth Good metaphor. All right. Love you, ladies and gentlemen. Be the change you want to see. Be the example you want to set. Oh, also, landscape paintings. Description below. All right. I'll catch you next week on Tuesday, and we'll see which direction we go from there. And for the last section, next Wednesday on Wednesday Wisdom. Be the change you want to see.